On this episode of AntSol Travel, we'll be heading to Santa Ana to check out the Bowers Museums located about 5 miles away from Disneyland. For there, they do have a permanent art collection from various times and cultures around the world. And especially get to see also their limited time Chinese Terracotta Warriors that's traveling exhibit until October 19. So let's go check out the Bowers Museum, only about 5 miles away from Disneyland, here on AntSol Travel. The Bowers Museum was named after Citrus growers Ada and Charles Bowers, who donated the land to open the museum in 1936 as a nonprofit art cultural museum, initially opening with 11,500 square feet. But the Bowers Museum does have an acknowledgement there for the first people of the land. Over the decades, the Bowers Museum grew over the decades, adding over 12,500 square feet with the new wing in 1973 and the new building in 1992. And another expansion in 2007 with Dorothy and Donald Kennedy Wing to add on special exhibits, 300-seat auditorium, and event venues. In 1994, an auxiliary building was opened a couple blocks away called the Kidseum for kids-focused exhibit area, which is now only open for school trips. Admission to the Bowers Museum is $18, and seniors 62 and older, along with students 12 years older, are $15, and kids under 12 are free, whether paid adult or seniors. However, there's an upcharge to see the Terracotta Warriors, and that includes regular admission at $29 per adult and $26 for seniors and students. Getting to the museum is actually quite simple by transit, or you can drive there as well. For there, you can go there from transit from Disneyland via the OCBus 83, Rapid 553 limited stop service, weekdays only, or the combination of 50 and 53 with transfers at the ARTIC. For boarding at the Katella Harbor, you can exit for the 83 and the 53 at Main Street and 20th, which is a couple of blocks from the stop there. For the 53 and exit at Main and 17th, which is just past the Kidseum. However, I got tons of errands to run afterwards, so I actually drove over there this time around. For there, it went from the Anaheim Resort area to drive. You can just go south on I-5 and exit at Main Street. Turn right on Main, and then the parking lot is 0.3 miles away. They do have a large parking lot to park in, and it costs $7 for parking, or technically it's $6.99 for some reason. I don't know why it's not $7. However, I wanted to add more exercise and explore Santa Ana before and after the museum. So I decided to drive all the way to the Santa Ana train station. So let's drive there. To get to the train station, I drove all the way down to the train station, and it's basically technically free to park. So I'll buy a $2 OCBus fare back because especially it was still 90 degrees at the time on there, 9 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm going to go an indirect route by the Hidden House Coffee Roasters and get coffee and on the way over, and the area is nice and walkable as I took the Metrolink and walked over to the courthouse on my second day of jury duty. For me, I went to explore Santa Ana on the way to the Bowers Museum. So I parked at the Santa Ana train station and walked a mile and a half to the museum. So for there, it's technically called the Santa Ana Transportation Center, or the SAR, or not technically sure. From Anaheim, just go down on south on I-5, exit Santa Ana Boulevard, turn left, and then left on the parking structure. Welcome to Santa Ana Station. Rebuilt in 1985, it replaced the original train station that stood from 1939 to 1982. It is a stop for the Amtrak Pacific Surfliner, Metrolink, Inland Empire and Orange County Line, and OCBus. For the OCBus, I can take the A3 bus on my way back from the Bowers Museum, which I did on the way back. Parking in the garage is free for up to 72 hours for there. When I got to the garage, I got to see the Metrolink Inland Empire 808 to downtown Riverside. There are 3 floors to the station, which the second floor had a perfect vantage point to record trains from. The station is also the terminus for the upcoming OC streetcar coming in 2026, going through downtown Santa Ana and ends at Harbor Boulevard in Garden Grove, totaling about 4.5 miles. It originally was set to open in 2019 with a $250 million budget. However, time and cost ballooned to $629 million and set to open next year. Of course, it caused tons of road closures that affected businesses and residences. But back in June, the Orange County Grand Jury had a discussion on there about the many issues about the streetcar. Time for quick coffee and almond spread croissant at the Hidden House Coffee Roasters with their Santa Ana Roastery. The original location opened San Juan Capistrano in an historic 120-year-old house in Los Rios Historic District. The Santa Ana Station location opened in 2015 to host the cafe, patio, coffee bar, pastry kitchen, and coffee roasting equipment that also supplies their San Juan Capistrano and their recently opened San Clemente location, which just opened earlier in July. After that, I walked a mile through the neighborhood of French Park, which is nice historic houses there. Then the busy roadways of Main Street strip malls and county offices. Then I passed the Kidseum and arrived at the Bowers Museum a couple blocks later, totaling 1.4 miles from the train station to the Bowers Museum. Let's go to the Bowers Museum. The entrance is located through the courtyard. Once you go inside, you can purchase tickets, check your names if you've bought online, and otherwise, which I did, I just bought online. There's no, food and beverage is not allowed in the museum, and especially it's only open until 4 p.m. on weekdays. So since it's noon, I got like about 3 to 4 hours on there. I only sent any up for 3, but for me, it was worth it. So let's go check out and see how much ground we can cover. Right, there are 10 exhibit areas, with the first one being tapestries of sacred realms featuring Buddhist paintings. Second one is ceramics of Mexico. Third is Californian bounty, with images and identity from 1850 to 1930. The first Californians, which is like pre 1850, and the legacy of missions and ranchos from 1768 to 1848. So I think that first Californians was before 1848. And then there was the Anthony W. and Sharon D. Thompson Foyer, which has various artifacts. Foundation Gallery, which at the time when it showed for this had like a gemstone gallery in it, but now it's being hosting for another gallery right now. But otherwise, it's being swapped out to a new exhibit right now. Other ones exhibits, they also have the Spirit and Headhunters, the arts of the Pacific Islanders, and the Chinese arts, which is 5,000-year legacy. And of course, the Terracotta Warriors. So let's go to see the Terracotta Warriors first. Welcome to the Terracotta Warriors exhibit. I'll just give a brief overview about the exhibit there as for this case. The Bowers Museum received on loan 5 Terracotta Warriors on the feature exhibit, dating back to 221 BCE in China. The warriors were created by the thousands to guard the Emperor Qi Shi Huang in the afterlife, and China's first emperor. The tomb was uncovered 50 years ago and has been on loan at the various museums since then. Since uncovered in the 1970s, several Chinese universities have been excavating the site, located over 400 miles from Beijing, uncovering many new artifacts over the years. Each figure is unique and with over 2,000 unearthed so far, which equates to nearly a whole army. It's presumed that the portrait that each figure could be a portrait of each person in the army. Of course, all of them were painted and had unique designs with pigmentation that faded over the centuries, which they also had a cool monitor system on there, so you can actually design your own figure there. Great Lakes were taken to preserve the artifacts, as archaeologists built a climate-controlled structure, carefully examined the figures that are still standing, and carefully put together the pieces that were collapsed. Of course, Terracotta Warriors exhibit had a gift shop where you can buy a figurine for $15. And the Ola Wings of the museum hosted California history with the Californian bounty from 1850 to 1930, showing how California is being represented in the works of art, including Ideal California Day by Frank Colburn in 1921. The show is a beautiful day in Los Angeles at Vermont and Wilshire, as a woman looks to buy flowers from a stand. This could be you if you moved to LA back in the day. And also to this day, Laguna Beach has always been an artsy town ever since 1910s, where many artists would have lived there full time or stay for the summer, especially with the beautiful canyons, groves, and beaches that were there before the developments had perfect subjects for landscape. And also they do have like various exhibits there as well for California history, including like about the missions and also the first people. I couldn't find where the first one for the first people went, unfortunately, so I do apologize. I did find one. I did pass by the Ceramics in Mexico, which has a dog on there. I'm not sure if it's either a Xolo Esquinty or a Chihuahua. I'm not 100% sure. And then the foyer, they had like various collections there as well. And then in the Foundation Gallery, they did have various new collections I think they were putting in there. So I think that's what they were doing at the time, putting in new ones. And then for Spirit and Headhunters, they did have like various artifacts from the Pacific Islanders that were donated from all the various islands on there. and especially for ancient arts China. Also, they have various artifacts from Chinese history of over 5,000 years, but it's kind of happens to complement the at time right now for the Terracotta Warriors. So it's pretty cool. So for there, was it worth $30? Yeah, for me personally, it is. For me, I especially like to learn about culture and history and arts. So for me, it was perfect to go for me to go to the gallery. Is it for everybody? Do you want to spend $30? Depends on what you really think. So for that case, there. If it's not for you, then I say, skip it. But for there, if you're really interested about learning about arts and stuff there, arts and history and culture, then I say definitely good to go too. On the way out, of course, I stopped by the gift shop, which one of the previous exhibits that they had was about Japanese manga, which one I had on clearance was the best of Attack on Titan manga for $10, so it was pretty good. And also got postcards as well. Do you see right there? There. Yeah, so all of them were from like the California exhibits there. On the way back, I took the OCBus 83 to go back to Santa Ana Transportation Center, and especially on the way back was double of 53 and 83. So 83 came back and then took nice ride back to the train station, and then took the OCBus 83 back there in time, and then got to see the 779 Surfliner, which was delayed at the time. So perfect timing there for everything. Thank you for watching AntSol Travel.